Hello, computer animation students. This is the third video that you should have received with regards to this course. The first two were talking about how to install Blender 2.79 onto your computer, and the second one was talking about the steps required for the first couple of weeks from March 30th to about April 15th. And so this video is going to be focusing on how to do the Blender Man walking jumping assignment, which I had never demoed for you before. So the first thing I'd like to do though is just do a quick review of what it is that you should have already done and should be doing over the course of the next couple weeks. So the very first step that must be done before anything else can be done is you need to download Blender 2.79. Please watch the YouTube link here if you're not sure exactly what it is or how you can do that. You also need to join Google Classroom by using this class code so that you can have access to all the new assignments. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that using a file management program on your computer, you want to create a folder in your home computer called Computer Animation. And within that folder, you're going to want to make a couple of subfolders called Assignments and Textures. After you've done that, then your next responsibility is to complete any missing assignments that you might have for term 3. And all of the assignments for term 3 are right from the 5-mesh object up to and including the robot arm. So remember, I sent you a progress report last week. Please take a look at that, and if there's anything missing or outstanding, that is your first and number one priority. You will note as well that I did share with you yesterday a Google Drive folder that has some of your most recent Blender files that you completed prior to spring break. So please take a look at that so you don't have to start those assignments from scratch. After you've finished all of your term 3 assignments, the next assignment to do is your robot project, which is worth 50 marks, and I'm anticipating should be done by April 6th. A few of you, however, actually completed that robot project before spring break. So this is why I am showing you the new video, which is the next step in this whole process, which is creating the Blender Man walking jumping animation. And this isn't due until April 15th, but for those of you who would like to get a head start on it, this is the video that will show you how to do that. So going to your computer animation Google Classroom page, you will notice, and your page will look a little bit different than mine, that you have a Blender Man walking jumping animation assignment. And if you go and take a look at some of the files that I've created in here for you, you will see that there are some instructions that lay out exactly what you should be doing. And you will also notice that there is a video, an AVI video that you can run that will give you an example of what a finished product should look like. You can also see that there is a rubric showing you what and how I'm going to mark this. But the two key files I want to focus on right now is the Blender Man actual Blender file, as well as the walk cycle image file. So we need to download these two files onto our computer. So the way we can do that is I can click on my Blender Man blend, and what I will see is I will see it come up with a download option. So I'm going to click on that download option. And I am going to go now into my computer file here, and I should in my downloads now see a Blender Man file. So I got to copy that. That's my dog barking. I am going to copy this over into my home computer, and hopefully you know where you save this. But I'm going to copy it into my computer animation folder, into my assignments folder, and I'm going to paste that in there as my Blender Man file. Likewise, I'll just stop share there. I am going to also go to my I'm going to go back into my computer animation Google Classroom file, and I'm going to click on my walk cycle. So this is going to be a helpful image for us as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on that image, save image as, and I'm going to go and I'm going to save that into my documents folder as well, into my computer animation, into my assignments, and I'll just save that as a walk cycle. So Now that we have those two files downloaded, I'm going to go into Blender itself, and I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do this. So I'm just going to position my face up here a little bit further. But basically what I need to do now is, if I come into a Blender file, one of the things we always want to remember is that we want to go into orthographic view. So on the numlock key, we're going to press the number 5 to change to orthographic view. And we are going to go into front view. So I'm going to be in front orthographic view. And while I'm at it, I just need to open up actually my Blender Man file. So I'm going to go in File, Open. I'm going to go to my C drive in this case and into my Documents. And I'm going to go to my Computer Animation folder, into my assignments. I'm going to open up the Blender Man file that I had just saved. Now, if I go and do a wireframe of this, what we will see is that we have a mesh object that's already been pre-created for you that looks like a basic person. Now, what we need to do here is we need to add armatures and join them together, parent them together, so that this person, this Blender Man, can move. Now, notice how I have positioned this Blender Man so that his arms and his legs are quite a bit distance from each other, so that hopefully when we create the armature, that we will, and I'm just going to go back into wireframe, that we will be able to have it parent well. So I'm just going to click on my 3D cursor here, right at about the pelvis area of this person, and I'm going to add a armature. Now I'm going to go to side view, so I'm going to press number 3 on the keyboard and go to side view and just make sure that I position this right smack in the middle of the person, both horizontally and vertically. Now at this point here, I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to drag this bone up so that it is going right up to basically his shoulders. Now over here, I'm going to click on the data object tool, and I'm going to make sure that X-ray is on and stick is on so that I can work with my armatures a little easier. So at this point here, what I want to do in edit mode is I want to E to extrude, and I'm going to press the enter key immediately after, and I'm going to drag over just a little bit to create a shoulder bone. Then I'm going to E, press the enter key again, and using the translate manipulator, create a upper arm bone. And then I'm going to E, press the enter key, and I'm going to do the same thing over here to correct part of the rest of the forearm. And I'm going to click back over here with the right button of my mouse. I'm going to click and then press E, and then press enter. And I'm going to make a little shoulder bone as well. Press E, press enter, make a upper arm bone, press E, press enter, and then make the forearm bone. Now, while I'm at it, I will click back over here, press E, press enter, and I will do a little bit of a bone for his head. And then down here now, I'm going to right click on here, and I'm going to just have to sort of freehand move and make a little bit of a pelvis bone. And then I'm going to E, press the enter key, and drag down to about the knee. E, press the enter key, drag down right to the end of the foot. And then I'm going to go into side view here, and I'm going to press E, press the enter key, and drag over and drag down slightly. And then I'm going to go back into front view, and I'm going to do basically the exact same thing over here. So I'm going to E and just drag over, E, press the enter key and drag down, E, press the enter key and drag down. Then I'm going to go to side view, pressing number 3 on the numpad, E, press the enter key and go across, and then just pull down a little bit. So now I have got my bones created. I can go back into object mode, and I'll go into front view. And now if I wanted to, I could also go into solid view, because I did turn on the X-ray. And now what I can do is I can click on my mesh first. So I'm going to right click on my mesh, and then shift right click on my armatures. And then I'm going to control P, and I'm going to parent that with automatic weights. Now, if this worked properly, then when I go into pose mode, what I should see is I should see that my bones are going to move my mesh. So I'm going to drag my shoulder bones down a little bit, just sort of to kind of get the first initial movement. And then I'm going to drag it so that it sort of sits like this, which is somewhat of a natural look. Obviously, this person has fairly long arms, but basically we can see that that's working. We can just test this to make sure that this is working. It looks like this is all fine. So we're looking good. Now, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the background image of my walk cycle. So the way I do that is I press the letter N on the keyboard while my mouse pointer is in the 3D view window. And over here, I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom, click on background image, click on the little arrow beside it, choose add image, then click open. And then I'm going to go to my documents folder in my C drive where I have my folder, computer animations, and I'm going to add my walk cycle. Now, clearly my walk cycle is not very big in relation to my picture right now, so I'm going to make this about 45. Now, 45, if I were to select everything here and drag this up, this you can see is approximately the right size for this man. Now, I'm going to press the letter N, and I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. And now, a couple things I need to do. One is I need to move this over so that it's just before this picture. And the other thing I need to do is I need to change the profile of this. So I need to RZ90 to turn him so that he is facing in the same way as I see here. And I'm just going to move him back a little bit more. And now I'm ready to start. So this is basically how we've got this set up. This is our sort of stationary view. Now, we haven't looked at this before, but what I'm going to look at with you right now is this idea of scenes. So right now in my file, my BlenderMan file, I have a stationary scene that I have. But if I were to click plus and make a full copy, what I now have is, if you see here, I have a stationary and I have a stationary 001. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to call this walk. I'll call it walking actually, and I'll make that scene there. And now this is going to be my walk cycle. Now the purpose of scenes is basically, as you might suggest, that you can go from one sort of animation to the other. The nice thing about scenes is that after you've done one particular scene perfectly, you can go to the next and it won't affect each other. So it's kind of like saving separate stages of your work. Now, at this point here, I want to walk. And so in order for me to walk, I'm going to need to use my pose mode. So I'm going to have to make sure I click into pose mode. And what I want to do down here on my timeline now is in frame 1, I want to make sure that I'm set at lock rod scale, and I want to turn the recorder on. Now at this point here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock all of my bones into place at frame 1 right here. Now, as you can see, it's telling us that the frames we're going to use are frame 15, 30, 45, 60, and 1. Now, we're going to kind of jump one more frame. So I'm going to start at frame 1 here, and then this one's going to become frame 15, frame 30, frame 45, frame 60, and so forth. So I'm at frame 1. I've already locked in this place, and I'm going to move to frame 15, and I'm going to physically drag the entire shape over to this spot here now. And now what I want to do is I want to mirror or try and line up my appendages with what we see here in this. Now notice that in this picture that we basically have bold or darker color, which is the foreground leg or arm, and then we have a lighter or the back arm that is showing. So in this case here, I want my foreground arm to come slightly forward, and I'm just going to scroll wheel so I can make sure I grab the correct arm. I'm going to go back into front view, and I'm just going to R to rotate that forward a little bit. So likewise, I'm going to scroll wheel and grab my other arm, and I'm going to rotate that slightly back, and I'm going to grab my back leg, and I'm going to rotate that up and over. Now, obviously, it's not going to fit exactly with what we see here, but what we do want to do as well is we want to get in the habit of adjusting our feet a little bit as well. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing something that kind of looks like a moonwalk. So now that I finished that one, I can go to frame 30, and I'm going to A to select all, and I'm going to physically drag all of these bones and the whole shape over. And now I'm lined up here, and I'm going to now adjust and position my body so that it will line up with all of these bones. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. And my forearm here, bring it forward a little bit, bring this one a little bit further back and in a little bit. And I'm going to collectively pull the whole thing down a little bit as well. And so then we have, I'm going to shift to frame 45, and I'm going to drag this over, and I'm going to now redo this here. So this one here is going to come up here, my leg, rotating, using R to rotate. So I'm just using the R button each time to rotate this. Once again, making sure my feet are moving appropriately. And I will bring my back arm, my forearm back, and I will grab my back arm and I will rotate it forward. And I'm going to grab the whole thing and bring it up slightly as well. So it's sort of lined up. And I'll do one last one here before I kind of let you try this yourself. So we're going to go to frame 60. I'm going to physically drag this whole thing over. And now I'm going to have my forearm bend here a little bit. I'm going to have this arm come forward a little bit and bend. I'm going to have my front leg straighten and come forward, and my back leg come back. And I will select all of it and bring it down slightly. And I'm going to move my feet a little bit. And there we are. So now I'm going to go back to frame 1, and I'm just going to run this so you can see basically what this is looking like. So what we have is we have obviously a motion here of a person walking. Now, at this point here, I'm just going to go back to frame 60 here for a second. We would do one more frame to frame 75 here, and once we finish the walk cycle, what we would do is we would move back here a little bit, and I'm going to go into object mode now. And I would also then add a cube, and I would scale this up about 3 times, and I would bring it onto the same line as I have here, and maybe pull it just a little bit further over. So what we're essentially doing here is we're going to finish to our walk cycle here, and then when we get to this point here, in the video I show you of the completed one, you're going to see that the person, the Blender man, needs to crouch, so bend his knees deeply, pull his arms way back, and then he's going to, prior to ever elevating and jumping up off the ground, he is going to then straighten his legs and pull his arms forward. And as he is in the process of straightening his legs and pulling his arms forward, then he can start to elevate and land in a crouch position on the box and then straighten up. Now the jumping part is a very tricky part, and there is nothing to trace here, so this is the challenging part for you. So once again, this assignment is out of 20 marks, and the intention is for you to do the best you can with this and then submit that Blender file to me so that I can see your completed animation. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me. Thank you.